Greetings. Today we begin the study of Revelation chapter 11. We'll consider the first two verses on the subject of the ministering of the two witnesses, and this will be part one. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise, and measure the temple of God and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread under foot 42 months. In the last message, we looked at the foreshadowing of the seventh and final trumpet, which is the last seven vials of God's judgment. We submitted for consideration that the pauses in the forward movement of the actions were twofold in purpose. One, clarifying something already revealed, and two, foreshadowing something about to be revealed. We concluded by focusing upon how the bittersweetness of the revelation caused John to become sick, and that, I think, indicates deathly sick. Daniel 7:28 and 8:27 state such a revelations caused Daniel to become physically ill also. And we make application to ourselves in light of what God is revealing to us through the scriptures. John is now revealing some things which Daniel was told to seal up until the time of the end in Daniel 12, verse 4 and verse 9. John was allowed to reveal much, but not all of these details for us. The example given is the utterances of the seven thunders in Revelation chapter 10, verse 4. Having made my basic outline for chapter 11, and with intentions to quickly deal with it and pass on, as usual, I began to document my findings with other scholars. The Holy Spirit used one of the first things I read to speak to my heart. The more I read, the more confirmation I received to this point. The understanding of Revelation chapter 11 is critical to a proper understanding of the entire book. So after prayerful consideration, I believe this information to be true and important enough to slow down forward progress to such a pace as is necessary for clear understanding and application. Therefore, I introduce the outline for the entire chapter, and then we will consider part one of the ministering of the two witnesses. Part one, the duration of their ministry in verses 1 and 2 of chapter 11. We'll look at the device of measurement. We'll go back and review the declaration of Daniel 9:24 through 27. In Matthew 24, verses 4 through 31. Then we'll look at the duration of the measurement, the deciphering, the delineation. In part two, we'll look at the details of their ministry in verses 3 through 6, their actuality as people, their activity as prophets, their attestation by protection, their authentication by power. In part three, we'll consider the description of their martyrdom in verses 7 through 14 of chapter 11. We'll look at the winning of the war by the beast, the witnessing by the beast people, the well-wishing by the beast people, and the wondering at the raising of the witnesses, the whisking away of the witnesses, and the woe finalized upon the earth. So let's return to part one, the duration of their ministry in verses 1 and 2. We see the device of their measurement. Literally, it says, a reed was given to me like a staff, saying, you rise up and you measure the temple of the God and the altar and the ones worshiping in it, that is the temple. And the court, the one outside of the temple, you cast outside, and you may not measure it, because it was given to the nations, and the holy particular city they shall tread under upon 42 months. Now the reed, Strong's 2563, is a measuring device. As a rod, number 4464, is an instrument of chastisement. This device is used again in Revelation 22:15 and 16, where we have a golden reed measuring the size of the New Jerusalem. In strict contextual use in Revelation 11:1, it's not used to measure the size of the temple, rather it's used to measure the duration of the Lord's rod of correction upon Israel. Specifically, the length of the time the Gentiles would be allowed to tread it underfoot, namely 42 months. And again, I'm compelled to remind us that this 7-year period, this 70th week of Daniel's prophecy, which is being fulfilled, is distinctly Jewish. I make this reminder because many errors can and will follow if this all-important premise is not maintained. It is the Jewish nation, and not the church or anyone else, who owes God this final week of years. Daniel stated in chapter 9, verse 2, that he understood by books the number of the years whereof the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah the prophet, that he, the Lord, would accomplish 70 years in the desolations of Jerusalem. This comes from Jeremiah 25. We'll read 2 verses as we conclude today. Jeremiah 25:11. And this whole land shall be a desolation and an astonishment, and these nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70 years. And it shall come to pass, when 70 years are accomplished, that I will punish the king of Babylon and that nation, saith the Lord, for their iniquity and the land of the Chaldeans, and will make it perpetual desolations.